Aviones Hércules C-130 de la Fuerza Aérea, de transporte de la aviación naval y aviones comerciales de aerolíneas argentinas establecían un puente aéreo durante el día y la noche con el continente. La zona del aeropuerto de Malvinas era esencialmente importante y a través de ella se canalizaba el principal flujo de hombres y pertrechos. Los días 8, 9 y 13 de abril, unidades de la Marina como el buque de desembarco Cabo San Antonio, transportes Bahía Buen Suceso e Isla de los Estados, guardacostas de la Prefectura y los buques mercantes de Elma, Formosa y Río Carcarañá transportaron material logístico, abastecimientos y personal. En pocos días, un total de 11.000 efectivos de distintos cuerpos de ejército, armada, fuerza aérea, prefectura y gendarmería fueron desembarcados en el archipiélago. El 2 de abril arribó el Regimiento de Infantería del Ejército número 25. Posteriormente, desembarcaron el Regimiento de Infantería número 12, los Regimientos de Infantería números 3, 4, 6 y 7, el Batallón de Infantería de Marina número 5, los grupos de artillería del Ejército números 3 y 4, y las unidades antiaéreas, radares y grupos de ingenieros. Mientras en Naciones Unidas continuaba la batalla diplomática, la defensa de las islas estaba en marcha. A esa altura de los acontecimientos, todo hacía prever que el comienzo de enfrentamientos bélicos era inevitable y que además estaban muy próximos a iniciarse. La actividad en Puerto Argentino era intensa ante la necesidad de continuar abasteciendo a las islas con todos los medios disponibles. Se aceleraba el alistamiento y reaprovisionamiento, en tanto que los aviones mantenían un activo puente aéreo en forma ininterrumpida. Tropas, pertrechos de guerra, alimentos, munición, todo estaba dispuesto para la defensa.
La Royal Marine, un poco para adentro, ahí está. Buen día, señor.
Pero la osadía de los pilotos, tanto aeronáuticos como navales, conmueven la opinión del mundo. Los pesados transportes Hércules, encargados de llevar suministros, realizan la mayor parte de su recorrido volando a no más de 20 metros de altura sobre el nivel del mar para poder burlar los radares enemigos.
Endless succession of Hercules and Air Force Boeing 707s. Ex-brigade from Buenos Aires province, well equipped but comprising thousands of chicos, the boy conscripts who served a year's compulsory national service. With them, the first Argentinian command model. 3 brigadier generals now vied for control. They also brought in squadrons of the deadly Pucará ground attack planes that had proved so successful in counter-insurgency roles. Tanks never featured in the eventual defence of Port.
The evidence, in fact, pointed quite the other way. The only people leaving the Falklands were the Argentines injured in the bomb attacks. More men and supplies were moving in and out of Port Stanley despite the runway bombing and the blockade. To judge from these Argentine television pictures, it looked as though British attempts to demoralize the troops on the island by hardship and constant bombardment had failed as well.
But the Argentine troops had yet to tangle with the British ground forces, also in good voice sailing south in Canberra.
By the end of the first fortnight in April, Argentina's hold on the Falklands was complete. A massive airlift had brought in more than 9,000 troops and vast quantities of supplies. Planes flew the 800-mile round trip to the mainland every day, building up the garrison with more and more men and material. In a move to stop the constant flow of reinforcements, Britain announced a total exclusion zone around the islands. In effect, a blockade. Any Argentine ship, and later it applied to planes too, entering an area within 200 miles of the Falklands was likely to be attacked. For the Argentines, it meant that restocking their supplies became a hazardous business, though they did manage to get some things through right to the end. The commander of the Argentine troops on the island, also appointed governor, was 52-year-old General Mario Menendez. He had a reputation as a hard-liner, and despite his outward charm, he was a tough soldier who'd made his name fighting rural guerrillas in the remote Argentine outback. Winning the hearts and minds of the local people was one of the general's main preoccupations. That, and also doing his bit to reassure world opinion.
How many troops are in the island?
Well, I can tell you that we have here many troops, but not exactly the number. I think this is a special thing for military matters. Do you understand?
Can you tell us how se puede decir cómo anda su cooperación con el pueblo de aquí malvinense? How are you getting along with the people here?
I think it's a particular thing because the people of the islands is now, I think, a little afraid in order it will be military operation here.
With all the equipment the Argentines had moved in, the prospect of a military operation was obviously very much on the cards. The army was looking more and more like an occupation force. Most of the men were conscripts who joined at 18, often reluctantly, to serve the 12 months minimum. For the regulars, though, the Falklands campaign was a rare opportunity to put their military talents to use. Argentina hadn't fought a foreign power for more than a century. These soldiers, interviewed by an American television crew, had just arrived in Port Stanley.
We are very well, and we think that we are in the right here, so we came to stay here because the islands are from us.
Do you think that the British will ever be able to take these islands back?
No, I don't think so. I think that the islands must remain for Argentina, and they will remain for Argentina.
The Argentine authorities had issued the islanders with a long list of do's and don'ts. They were to drive on the right-hand side of the road. No one was to travel without military approval. Identity cards were issued. Food supplies were all right, although shops were only allowed to open for 2 hours in the morning. Even then, there weren't many customers. Most Port Stanley people had left for the country, or camp as they call it, leaving just a few families behind. The Argentine authorities also made a start at trying to get the islanders to learn Spanish. To avoid it, as a gesture, they refused to send their children to school.
Okay, which is the school? This one here. That's the senior school. The junior school is probably looks a bit more school-like.
Where the soldier is right there is the main entrance to the school?
That's the main entrance to our senior school.
And why did you decide to walk out?
We walked out because we could not hold school in the conditions that prevailed immediately after the invasion. We had military presence, especially outside the junior school, the infant school. We had tanks, we had soldiers in the yard. And most of our school population were disappearing to the camp anyway, to the countryside.
Did they put restrictions on what you could teach?
No, they said that they wouldn't, but at the same time we didn't wish to be seen to be supporting the regime in any way. In fact, we have been holding school for the younger children in private houses, but we weren't going to give them that propaganda of supporting their idea of normalcy. This place has been raped, so there's no way that there is a normal situation.
This is the air bridge from the mainland to the Falklands, how Argentina is able to beat the Royal Navy's blockade of the islands. Port Stanley's airport hasn't even had to be extended for the huge airlift now going on. As many as 100 flights a day are bringing in